So we're continuing with our Toy Story sermon series. We've made it to Toy Story 3. Yay! It's my absolute favorite of the Toy Stories. It's a little darker and a little sadder if you watched it, but it has a lot of depth to it. And so I wanted to do a little undercover work for y'all to just go really deep into this. Fletch had a conference in Anaheim, and do you know what's in Anaheim? Disneyland. So at the end of this week, I took off on a jet plane. I flew 8 long hours for y'all to go and see if I could talk with some of the folks at Pixar. And so I have some photos from that. Fletch and I went on a little journey. We found the Pixar lamp where all the ideas are inspired, but that wasn't it. So we kept going, found a little photo booth, got a little distracted, took some pictures while we were there. And finally, that night in the park, we came across the man himself. There he is, and I was able to talk and find out a little more about the stuff going on there. So you can take that off now. Okay, thank you. But let's begin with Scripture. Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 2 and 4 say this: "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance." And then 1 Corinthians 13, 11 through 14 says this: "When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. And when I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, and then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love remain, and the greatest of these is love." You know, this week is all about endings and beginnings. We pick up in this movie with Andy. Andy's the one who has owned the toys all this time, but he's now gotten pretty big, and he's graduated from high school. He's getting ready to go to college. Now, that is especially near and dear to Fletch and I's heart, because we told you last week we brought our new freshman to LSU. And so we have 3 kids in college right now. Prayers, please. That's a lot of kids in college at the same time. Anyway, but so we know something about those transitions. A lot of you do as well. There's a lot of emotion attached to it too. And so I deeply empathize with Andy's mother. But she's trying to get him to pack up. Now, he has grown up so much. His room looks very, very different. But she tells him as he gets ready for college, he has to put his stuff in one of 3 categories. Either he has to put it in a box for donation, and it's going to go to the local daycare, or he has to put it in the attic, and he can save it for later, or he has to put it in the trash. And so we pick up with just a really quick clip that kind of shows this conversation between Andy and his mom. Let's watch.
Online?
Mom, no one's gonna want those old toys. They're junk.
Fine. You have till Friday. Anything that's not packed for college or in the attic is getting thrown out.
Whatever you say, Mom.
All right, so you can see he's grown just a little bit since the last movie, has he not? And he is reluctant to sort through it, I think in part because, like a lot of us, how do you decide what to keep, what to let go of? So I was thinking about that this week, and I brought something to share with y'all. This is one of my childhood dolls. This is Raggedy Ann. Isn't she precious? My kids say she's creepy, but I really like her. My grandmother actually hand-stitched her, and I have tried with all my might to get one of my kids to take her, and they will not. So she lives with me, and she will probably always live with me, and then maybe they'll fight over her one day when I'm gone. But when I drug her out of the closet, I was thinking about Toy Story, and I was like, oh, poor thing. She's been stuck in there. So she got to go on a field trip. So she's super happy to see all of you here today. And so Andy's kind of in this place. He's trying to decide what to do, and he puts it off and puts it off. And finally, he just grabs a trash bag, and he starts throwing everything in his toy box into this trash bag. He throws Jessie, and he throws, Barbie wasn't in that, but he throws Piggy, and he throws Rex, and he throws all of them bullseye. They're just going into the trash. And finally, the last 2 that he holds up are Buzz and Woody. And he stares at them for a minute, before putting Buzz in the trash bag and putting Andy in his college box. And so as he does this, the toys, of course, are devastated because they've been put in the trash can. He wasn't really going to throw them away. He actually was going to put them in the attic to save for later, but he didn't want it to look like he was trying to save them. Along the way to the attic, he gets distracted by his sister, and he sets the bag down and goes to deal with her. And then the mom comes, sees the trash bag, and what happens? She takes them downstairs because it's trash day. So off into the trash cans they go. And right before the trash folks come, I couldn't think of the word. I wanted to say dump truck. Anyway, right before they get there, the toys escape and they brush themselves off and they decide, rather than be where they're not wanted, they're going to donate themselves to the daycare. And so they put themselves in the daycare box. Now, they don't know what a daycare is, bless their sweethearts. But so they end up at Sunnyside Daycare. And they're really excited because there's toys everywhere and they hear kids and they're going to get played with. And they haven't been played with in so very long. And they meet a bear. And his name is Lotso. You see him down here. It was lots of hugs. His nickname is Lotso. He smells like strawberries. And in fact, my Lotso smells like strawberries, if any of you want to see later on. And he comes across as this really sweet bear. Look at his face. He's got this smile on it. Here, I'll lift him up a little. Well, I'll just end up trying to get him out and get stuck. Okay, but he seems like this really sweet, gentle bear. He gives them a tour of the daycare, and he assigns them to their room, which is the 2-year-old room. Now, they have no frame of reference to know this may not be the best thing in the world. And so the kids run in, and if you've ever been around a 2-year-old, then you know 2-year-olds do not play gently with their toys. And so they're banging them on the wall, they're dipping them in paint, they're stepping on them, sitting on them, putting them in their diapers. And as they're running and doing this, the toys don't know what to do. They want it to be played with. But this is not the gentle play of Andy. This is toddler love. And toddler love is a special kind of thing. And they put them in their mouth and all kinds of stuff. And so they feel like they're not rated for this room, so they go to find Lotso to see about getting moved. And when they do, they discover something about Lotso. He's actually a supervillain. Underneath that gentle exterior is a mob boss who rules the daycare. And he says they cannot switch classrooms. And in fact, he tells them that they are disposable, and when they're all broken and torn apart, they will just throw them away, and that's just their lot in life. But every supervillain has a backstory, don't they? They didn't all start that way. And so I want to share with you Lotso's backstory.
Yeah, I knew Lotso. He was a good toy, a friend. Me and him, we had the same kid, Daisy. I was there when Lotso got unwrapped. Daisy loved us all, but Lotso was special. They did everything together. You never seen a kid and a toy more in love. One day we took a drive, hit a rest stop, had a little playtime. After lunch, Daisy fell asleep. She never came back. Lotso wouldn't give up. It took forever, but we finally made it back to Daisy's. But by then, it was too late. Something changed that day inside Lotso. Something snapped.
She replaced us. Come on.
No, she only replaced you.
She replaced all of us, didn't she? She don't love you no more. Now come on!
We were lost, cast off, unloved, unwanted. Then we found Sunnyside. But Lotso wasn't my friend anymore. He wasn't anyone's friend. He took over Sunnyside, rigged the whole system.
So, how'd you get out?
I got broke. Bonnie found me, took me home. Other toys, they weren't so lucky. It ain't right what Lotso done. New toys, they don't stand a chance.
But my friends are in there.
You can't go back. Returning now would be suicide.
But what about your Andy?
Isn't he leaving for college?
So you can see right away there is this choice that Woody has. Is he going to lean into that space of rejection and anxiety? But he doesn't. Instead, you see a little difference between him and Lotso. Woody's still concerned for his friends, even though he has been rejected. But for Lotso, it's very different. When he felt like Daisy no longer wanted him, something inside him snapped. And then when he got into that place, he began to lash out at the people around him because he was bitter and angry. You know, as adults, we watch this scene and you kind of know what happened. The little girl fell asleep, and her parents, under no circumstances, wanted to wake her up because there is nothing more furious than a young child who's been woken up mid-nap. I mean, they're terribly mean. And so they're like sneaking her into the car, and they finally get her in, and they get the belt just over her. And they're not worried about the toys. They're just worried about keeping her asleep. And then when they get home, they realize the toys are gone, and they can't remember where exactly it was they left them, or maybe they were too far away for them to find them again. And there's a bit of a panic, right? Because the child is inconsolable. You ever had that? Your kid ever lose a favorite toy? So what do you do in those situations? You go to Walmart and you get an exact replica of the toy. That's what you do. And that is what they did. They just made the best of the situations. Sometimes you can't replace them. When my middle child was young, he had two favorite stuffed animals. One was called Woofy, it was a dog, and one was called Brownie, and it was a bear. And he drugged those things everywhere. And we took him to Gatlinburg one time, and he left them in a drawer there. And then we didn't realize till we got home. And that boy cried and couldn't sleep. He kept coming in our bed at night. It was miserable. And because sometimes God feels really sorry for me, by a miracle, a package showed up at our house. And inside of it were Woofy and Brownie. Can you believe that? The people in the cabin after us had found them. And then we had signed one of those little address book things where you write a little note thanking people for letting you stay there, and we put our address, and they mailed it to us. I mean, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and peace was restored to our house, and our kid could sleep again. But a lot of times, that's not how that happened. But Lotso doesn't understand this. He just feels like no one cared about him, and he's been replaced. He doesn't care about the perspective of the mom. He doesn't understand the perspective of Daisy. All he knows is that he has been rejected, and it consumes him, and so he begins to change, and he begins to hurt everybody around him. I once read a church sign, and it said, "Bitterness is an acid that destroys its own container." And that's why Paul in Ephesians says, "Put away all bitterness and wrath and wrangling and slander, together with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving each other as Christ has forgiven you." Because how we handle the difficulties in life, it matters, particularly if we bear the name of Jesus. It's still hard, though, even as people of faith, even when we know God is with us. Our pain sits in us, and sometimes it causes us to get stuck. Sometimes it causes us to hurt the very people that are trying to help heal that pain. And we build these walls, and sometimes we get stuck in these places that are not good for us at all. The invitation of Ephesians is to let go of those things which are harming us in order to embrace something different. Maybe in your life right now, God is inviting you to let go of something that you've been holding on to that is no longer serving you, that in fact perhaps is harming you. Ecclesiastes says that there is a season for all things, and maybe this is that season for you. As humans, we struggle to know what season we are in a lot of times. Is this the time I'm supposed to hold on to something, or the time I'm supposed to let go? Is this the time I tear it all down and start over, or is this the time I build up from where I am? Do I speak out, or is this the season in which I am quiet? And because we have a hard time figuring it out, we really have to look to God and the community to help us know what time we're in and what to do about it. In one of the most moving scenes near the end, Woody and his friends have fallen into a dumpster, and then they get taken to the place where all trash goes. And they're in real trouble. And they're trying to decide what to do, and there's this really beautiful moment when they have to let go and look to each other for strength near the end. Let's watch.
Woody, look! I can see daylight! We're gonna be okay!
I don't think that's daylight.
Sarah! The button! Help me! Come on! Go! Go! Hit the button! Hurry! Just push it! Push it! Push it! Where's your kid now, Sheriff? No! No! What do we do?
If you've never seen the movie, it's a little mean. We have been watching these clips at home before Ryan goes to bed, and the other night, right before he went to bed, I knew this was coming up in the movie, and so I paused it right there and was like, "Good night, son." And that's where we left it. He was a little worried about it. We haven't even gotten back to it. Poor thing. We'll have to work on that. But good news, there's a Toy Story 4 and 5, so it probably works out. But you see in this two things. One, you see Lotso, Woody has rescued him, which is why he's there with the toys. And there's a chance for Lotso to be part of this community, to find at last acceptance and love in them. But instead, he just can't let go of that anger. And so he chooses in that moment to lean into it and to do something pretty awful, which puts all the other toys in danger. But it's also, there's a beautiful moment. This wonderful reminder that we are not made to be alone. or to do this all by ourselves. We are made to walk through this together, to walk through the good times and through the challenging ones. You know, we spend a lot of time dividing ourselves, fighting unnecessarily. You see Lotso do this. He's always trying to corrupt the community and turn them against one another, when really their greatest strength is when they grab hold, even to face the most difficult thing. Because we need one another, and together that is our strength. We can face anything in that way, and that is how we get through it. You saw the horse, and he was bullseye, he was shaking, and then Jesse grabbed him, and he calmed. There is peace in being together, even when it's hard. And when you've been with people who have faced the unimaginable, who have even faced the end, and some of you have walked with them to that place, and you know, even as hard as it is, there is something holy and beautiful about holding on together in that moment. There's a song that's really popular at funerals, and it's called Hymn of Promise, and it was written by a woman named Natalie Sleeth. It goes something like, in the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. You'll know this song. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. You know, when Natalie wrote that, she was inspired by a poem by T.S. Eliot that was called The Four Quartets, and in it, it says, "In our end is our beginning." What she didn't know when she wrote that was a few weeks later, her husband was going to discover that he had terminal cancer. And so she walked with him through that season. And he asked her in the middle of that if she would sing it at his funeral. And she did. And it was hard, and it was emotional, but also beautiful. Unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. That's what helps us as the people of God respond to things differently. Because we do understand that we have a God, and even though sometimes he reveals things slowly to us, we don't have to understand everything that happens. There is a lot of mystery in this life that we encounter. But even if we have everything else fade away around us, God is still there. In the final scene of the movie, instead of putting the toys in the attic, they find their way back to Andy. And Andy decides not to put them in the attic. Instead, he wants to give them a second life. And so he shares them with a little girl named Bonnie, who we met earlier in the movie. She is the child of the daycare owner, and she is great with toys. And so he brings all of them over there, and there's this really sweet scene at the end of the movie where he plays with them one last time. And then he gets ready to tell them goodbye. Let's watch.
Thanks, guys.
Look, Mommy, they're all playing together.
Come on, let's get some lunch.
So long, partner.
Oh, hey, Buzz, you haven't put Molly's toys yet. Come here, you're gonna...
Lots of folks watch this and that part and boohoo. I think every time I've seen it, I cry at the end of that. 1 Corinthians says, when I was a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child, and eventually I put away childish things. And there comes a time, though we spend much of our life seeing everything very dimly, when one day we will see things clearly. We will have a full understanding. I think about that often Because there is so much in this life we don't understand, so much that we hold on to, so much that feels broken around us, and we're in this constant space of letting go and being healed and being broken again, and on it seems to go. In that scripture too, it says that now I know only in part, but then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And that is the secret, because we are fully known by God. God sees all of our pain. God sees the things that need healing. God sees the things that have broken us. He even, in a metaphorical sense, when you think of Lotso in that space, who chose to stay closed and not open to love, who rejected community, even in that, God knows Lotso and Lotso's story. God knows those of us who just can't open ourselves up again. And he calls to us all. He invites us to let go and to experience a new beginning in him. He says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And so maybe it is that God is calling us to let go of some things, because when we come to the end of all that we know sometimes, that is when we find life. That is when we find love. That is when we find what we've been looking for all along. Will we be open to him? Let us pray.